Hello guys, Thomas from FINEIGHT and welcome to Tuesday's recap. So let's start from the end. My last trade of the day was NVAX. NVAX was gapping 70% up. Extraordinary move, so you would expect a profit taking from the beginning, which of course happened. And then I was curious to see if the price will hold or if it will crumble. And as you can see, it held quite nicely, and towards the end of the session it was of course affected by the overall market, which was going down heavily, but eventually you can see almost doji here, which means a really narrow body and a big shadow on each side. So yeah, I would say NVAX held pretty well. And judging by today's pre-market prices, the new price is accepted. So my entry here was at the break of 40 with a really nice cup and handle formation, and boom, it went to 41.50 at almost, and I actually took two profit targets. One was aimed just before 41, and the second one just before 41.50. So an average of 1.3%. Total gain was less than my intended, but look what happened next. So my stop loss was just around here, and I was watching it live, of course, so within 3 seconds it fell through 41 to 39. Actually, there were also another opportunities later on. One of them was the 40.5 breakout, which worked again very nicely, and then the 42, which went all the way to 44.5. So you would think, okay, so those were really nice opportunities, pretty straightforward. Why didn't you take them? So the main concern was the day's highs, and also since I saw how quickly this candle formed, I knew that NVAX was a very active market, and it was really easy to manipulate, because there were emotions present, much more than on average. So things like these could happen, and indeed, if you look at this one, from 43.5 to 40.5, 3 points again in less than a minute or so. Much more volatile than this one, and you really don't want to be heavily invested. So yeah, you could argue I could have taken some scalps, but overall I was up nicely for the day, up almost 2%, so I didn't want to lose everything back in just one trade, because even though you would have a stop loss set in the platform, the fill could have been 2 times that. So instead of risking 1%, you could have been easily risking 2% or even more, and it's just not worth it. So my trade was before this first brutal shakeout happened, and after that I decided not to invest in this stock again, at least for that day. Okay, so moving on, Vodafone. Alright, so Vodafone had a really nice technical formation, at the break of 15, and the market at that time was going slightly down and Vodafone was holding strong, so break of 15, and my original target was somewhere around here, 15.27. But seeing as this is not a market that moves very much, and seeing this narrow range, if I had a stop loss just above those lows, I would have had 2-1 easily before 15.20. In these low-priced and not very much moving stocks, the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 price points act similarly to whole numbers. So the 15 for this market is a really big occasion, and any subsequent 0.10 is always some challenge. So seeing as it was really struggling with the 15.20, I decided to get rid of half of my shares there and move the stop upwards. So I placed it 1 cent under the 15.1, which was 15.09, and I got out, and in total I took less than 1% from this trade. And lastly, IIVI, which was actually my first trade of the day, and it was the only loss I had. And for this one, the reason why I decided to show it to you last was this. So IIVI had a very nice breakdown formation under 46.30, so I entered, and seeing as it was really volatile, I put my stop loss behind this this candle. So I was counting with plus or minus 2 points stop loss because the spread was very high, and I just needed to be sure to be able to cover that stop loss with my 1% risk. So my target was actually somewhere around here, which, looking at the daily, is fine, I would say. After this much of a gap up, after the prices would start to fall and crumble, the new price not being accepted, unlike the NVAX, the target was quite reasonable. However, it went, I believe it was just slightly over 1 hour, and then started to climb slowly up. So up until this point, I was pretty sure that I want to stay in, but seeing so let me find what I'm looking for. Seeing this leg of the S&P and subsequently the same time period here in the IIVI, I decided to get rid of that trade because it was reacting to the up moves of the SPY but not to the down moves. And as you can see, for another hour or so, it continued to trade above the moving average. Eventually, towards the end of the day, of course, as you can see on the 5 minute to the left, it went down. It did not go all the way to my original target, which was around here, but yes, I would have made some monies. Am I angry that I did not hold? Because it didn't touch my original stop loss, so yeah, I should have made money, right? I do not look at this at it that way, because at that time I couldn't have known the movement of the market, the SPY. So imagine that the market would continue higher, and the IIVI would most likely be also reacting to the upwards movement, and it would slowly kill me and kick me out on my stop loss. This way I only lost 0.3% instead of the full 1 hour. So I'm really happy, made money on the remaining 2 and ending the day with +2. So let me guys think how you did today, yesterday, and looking forward to new trades today.